What if you could become a millionaire without having to win the lottery or change jobs or dramatically scale back on your lifestyle? It sounds like a pipe dream, but best-selling author and financial advisor David Bach says that anyone can do it if they follow a few simple, pain-free steps. His new book is called The Automatic Millionaire. Now, I have to believe that one of the reasons that the advice you offer in your book is so successful is that it starts from a very contrarian premise, one that most of us don't accept, and that is that you don't need a big cash flow or a big salary to accumulate big net worth. Tell me about that.
When you open up the book, you learn about a couple called Jim and Sue McIntyre. And this is actually based on a real couple. And what happened was I was a brand new financial advisor. This is in the early 90s. And I was teaching investment seminars. And this couple came up to me at the end of the seminar and said, we want to come into your office and discuss retirement. You know, I'm 52 years old and I'd like to retire. Well, I looked at them and I judged a book by its cover. You know, this guy Jim had on a short sleeve dress shirt, a pocket protector with these pens. He didn't look like somebody who could retire at the age of 52. And he had told me in the class that he'd never really made over $50,000 a year. So when he came into my office, my first thought was, this is going to quite frankly be a wasted meeting. I'm going to have to tell these guys that there's just no way they can retire. And they proceeded to show me their asset statement. They own 2 homes free and clear. They have over $1 million nest egg saved up. And they have 2 cars paid off and a boat paid off. And I start looking at how much money they make, and they've never made over $55,000 ever. Average income was about $30,000 during their lifetime. And here they are in their early 50s able to retire.
Well, let's talk about how the McIntyres became automatic millionaires. That the first principle, pay yourself first. Explain that.
They were told by their parents, as many of us have been told, that the first person who needs to be paid when you get a paycheck is you. The opposite of what a lot of people do is they try to budget, and budgeting doesn't work. The McIntyres threw the budget out the window. They sat down and they took the first hour or day of their income, and they paid themselves first. Now, what that means for somebody who's watching this show is it's the same thing. You take the first hour of income and you have it directly put into your RRSP. But the beauty of what the McIntyres did, and this is what other people need to do, is they automated it so that they didn't touch the money. In other words, what we receive, we spend. We spend it on taxes, we spend it on our landlord, our rent, credit cards, utilities, you name it. They had the money taken right off the top, and they had it go into their RRSP, and then they had to go into a home that they bought. And so the magic of what they did is there was no discipline required. And that's the key to the automatic millionaire. It is taking discipline off the table and making it completely automatic.
That if you put this money away, your lifestyle will conform to your free cash flow, you won't miss it? Is that basically what you're saying?
And that is what I'm saying, and that is the truth. You know, I'm not telling you that you can't have anything. I'm not suggesting that you put off all things you want to do with your life so that someday you can retire and have money. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is if you're going to work 10 hours a day, which most people are doing right now, they're working at least 8, you should keep the first hour or day of your income. That's the first step to being an automatic millionaire. Even if you don't believe you can save an hour a day of your income, then save 30 minutes. The average Canadian right now, based on statistics, is saving less than 10 minutes a day of their income. Think about that for a second. That's crazy.
Now, putting money away either in savings or RRSP, I mean, can make you a millionaire because of the miracle of compounding.
Right.
Tell me how that works.
What the miracle of compound interest is that a small amount of money put away, if you continually do that over a period of time, grows to be a fortune. I talk about in the book the Latte factor, because I've had a lot of people say, David, I don't have any money. I don't have any money to save. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. So I started asking people, can you save $5 a day? Well, the answer is yes, because a lot of us are spending $5 a day on lattes, literally. They're going and they're getting a latte, or they're going and getting bottled water, or they're going and getting cigarettes, whatever the case may be, $5 to $10 a day. You put that away in an RSP. You let it compound. At 10% interest, over 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you go from having tens of thousands of dollars in savings to hundreds to over $1 million in savings.
Now, this is why we tell our children to start investing in an RRSP early. What do you tell someone, and there are legions of them now, who are kind of in midlife, who are saying, you know, I really haven't been doing that. I don't have anything in an RRSP. I don't have any savings. The miracle of compounding doesn't work for me. I only got 10 years.
Well, here's what I say to people, and I get this question a lot now. I had a woman the other day come up to me. She was 52 years old, and she said, David, I went and I met with a planner. And that I spent $500 on this plan. And the planner basically told me that if I wanted to retire at 62, I need to save $2,000 a month. And she said, I'm only making about $50,000 a year. So basically what he told me is I have to save 75% of my paycheck. So she said, I walked out of that office, aggravated that I spent the money, and discouraged. So I haven't done anything. What do you think? And I looked at her and I said, let me ask you an honest question. Can you save $10 a day? She said, yeah. I said, are you married? Yeah. Can he save $10 a day? Yes. I said, let's start there. Because that means you'll be saving almost $7,500. So if the two of you do that and you use your RSP, which happened that their companies had a match, I calculated out the numbers for her. I said, realistically, you're going to have to work past 62. You'll probably work until your late 60s. But guess what? You do this, you'll still have at least $200,000, $300,000, maybe $400,000 in savings. Now, wouldn't it be better to have $400,000 in savings than nothing? She said, absolutely. I said,
why don't we do that?
Because the planners aren't explaining it that way. They're not sitting down and saying, guess what? $10 a day can change your life. They're making it too complicated. People who are reading the Automatic Millionaire book right now are saying to me, this is the easiest book I've ever read on money. Why didn't they teach this in school?
Is there a psychological predisposition on the other way? They say, you know what, okay, the latte factor, spending big bucks on little things. That's what makes life pleasurable. I need that latte. I can't think about 20 years from now.
A lot of people push back on that. I was just on Oprah Winfrey's show, and we had people track their latte expenses for a week.
Right.
And submit them. And then we had some of these people on the show. And one woman's latte factor for the month was over $1,100. And Oprah rolled out this cart and showed her, you know, if you just cut out like $7 a day, you'd have, and she had real cash, over $288,000. And this girl was in her early 30s, making very good money, and she had less than $10,000 in savings. And it was sort of like a light bulb moment of, look, you don't have to give it all up. You can still get your nails done. You can still get a massage. Just give up a little something so that you can have a lot later.
The other thing that often stands in our way of making savings or investing in our RSPs is whatever debt we've accumulated, especially credit card debt. Now, you make a very interesting point here that runs, again, against a lot of the notions, is that you don't have to pay all your debt off first before you can start saving. Explain how that works.
Yeah, it's amazing how bad advice has been given for so long. You know, have a budget. Okay, it doesn't work, but that's the advice that's always been given.
Yeah, you're against budgets. You just say forget it. Make it automatic.
Second advice people are always given is pay off your credit card debt first, then save. It's horrible advice because when you meet with somebody who has credit card debt, if they focus all their energy on paying off their credit card debt and their student loans, they may have to wait 10 to 15 years to start saving. So they've lost all those years of compound interest. More importantly, they get depressed because they're working for 10 years just to get themselves out of a hole. They never see themselves making progress. Then they never get excited about investing. I say this is what you do. You pay down your debt and you save for the future at the same time.
Split it 50-50.
Split it 50-50. You have $100 that you can put away a month. You put 50 towards debt and 50 towards the future. You shrink that debt and you build the future at the same time. And people who do this, they come back to me 3, 4, 5 years later and they go, you know what, that was the best thing I ever did because as my debt was shrinking, I was also seeing my savings go up, so I was feeling good about myself.
You also have advice for people who feel that they're being crushed under the burden of 18% interest rates on credit cards. What should I do if I've got, you know, all this debt on my credit card?
There's a series of things that you can do that are free. You can pick up the phone, for starters, and call your credit card company and tell them that you're not going to take it anymore. Speak to a supervisor and say, listen, I just got a credit card application in the mail. Now, you're not getting bombarded as bad in Canada as we are in the U.S., but you are being, you are being bombarded. Open up that mail. They're offering right now low-interest credit cards, sometimes anywhere from 0 to 6%. Your current credit card company will lower your interest rate on the phone, I would tell you 7 out of 10 times if you've been paying your bills on time.
Right.
Just by asking. We've done radio shows live where we've gone on the phone and got the credit card company to go from 18% down to 5% in less than 5 minutes.
So they'll deal, they'll negotiate.
They will deal. And if you don't get the first person to deal, ask to speak to the next person. Call back the next week. We had a woman recently who was at 29%. She went down to 18%. I said, well, call them back next week and go from 18% down to 12. And she looked at me and she's like, you can do this? I said, listen, it's a game. This is a game. Money is a game. Business is a game. You just have to play it to win.
The line of credit.
She's like, I can do that.
The line of credit.
Yeah.
Is that an option?
Line of credit on the home?
No, a line of credit, a personal line of credit to consolidate my, my credit card debt.
It is an option. The problem is, and again, this is a problem in the U.S., and you're starting to see it in Canada right now. The problem is people are pulling equity out of their house to pay off their credit card debt. And guess what? They pay off their credit card debt and they feel good for a few weeks, and a year later they're right back in credit card debt. So I would tell you that that's not the best option, because in most cases you're pulling equity out of your house, you're building up another loan again, and you're just moving one debt to another debt.
The second big cornerstone of your plan, after paying yourself first, is get into the housing market, own a home.
You have to.
Why is that so important?
Home ownership is the secret to all wealth in North America, period. If you are a renter, you are making someone rich, your landlord. If you're making your landlord rich, you're making yourself poor. The thing that blew me away when we made this book, we Canadianized this book. This book came out in the U.S., but we also Canadianized it at the same time, so that all your tax laws and statistics were covered. The Canadian statistic in 1999, the last time we had data for it, was that the average homeowner was worth almost $140,000. The average renter in Canada had a net worth of less than $2,000. So
70 times difference.
Isn't that unbelievable? Now in the U.S. it's like $4,000 for a renter and over $140,000 for homeowners. So I have a whole chapter in this book on how to go from being a renter to a homeowner. And the good news for Canadians is that it's easier right now for you to become a homeowner, because you have special tax laws that allow you to borrow up to $20,000 out of your RRSP account if you're single. If you're married, you can borrow up to $40,000. And the Canadian government allows you 15 years to pay that back. Well, that's where you get your down payment. So you pay yourself first, you use your RRSP for a few years, then you take that money out and you go buy your first home. And I will tell you, when you talk to your parents or your grandparents, they will tell you that the best investment they ever made was their home. So before you worry about, should I go back in and buy Nortel right now? Don't worry about the price of Nortel. Go buy a home.
You hear people talk about being house poor. Is it wise to get into the market even if you're carrying a big
It's
debt?
not wise to buy too big of a home. You don't want to see your mortgage and your cost for that house exceed 35% of your income. So whatever your income is, you don't want to go past the 35% mark. A lot of people are up to 50. That's a little too high. But I will tell you that if it's a difference between renting or buying a home with 5% down, buy a home with 5% down.
You also offer a surprisingly simple advice, and that is pay your mortgage off bi-weekly.
Yes.
Rather than monthly. Now, someone say, well, what difference could that make?
This is an amazing, simple thing that you can do that will basically reduce your debt tremendously. Okay, so you buy a home. Your mortgages here are 25 years long. U.S., they're 30 years long. You take your mortgage payment, whatever it is. Let's just use $1,000 as an example. You split it in half, $500 every 2 weeks. So you're paying your mortgage basically when you get paid, which makes your cash flow easier anyway. They make it automatic because they pull the money out of your checking account for you to go towards the mortgage. That takes a 25-year mortgage down to 20 years. You shave 5 years off of that mortgage. And you save, on average, in Canada, over $46,000 in interest payments. Now, the reason this works is that there's 52 weeks in a year. So you end up making, without really realizing it, one extra payment a year.
And it's very important, I understand, that you tell the bank that this additional payment is going for principal, not interest.
Absolutely. And in fact, I'll tell you something. When you make that extra payment and it goes towards the principal, not only do you have to make sure you tell them, but you need to document it. Because one thing people don't know is that some of these banks take that extra payment and they put it in a holding tank. They actually have a holding tank account for extra interest payments. So again, it's a scam. You got to make sure that that extra money goes towards principal, because that's how you get that mortgage reduced.
Now, I know that you and others say pay off that mortgage as quickly as you can as part of that debt-free strategy.
Yeah.
But there's another school of thought that says, interest rates are so low right now. I should have the fat of mortgage as I can. The cost of money has never been less. And take even remortgage my property. Take that extra money and get into the stock market and deduct those interest payments.
The stock market's not guaranteed. Debt-free is guaranteed. You can always pull that money out later and go invest it if you want to. So I just think it's a great goal. Now, I don't tell people to pay off their mortgage in one lump sum. I'm just suggesting take that 25-year mortgage and pay it off in 20 years. What the McIntyres did, which I think is brilliant, is they paid off one home. So they bought a home in their early 20s and they were debt-free by their 40s. And instead of spending that extra cash flow, they rented their first home, bought a second home, paid that home off early. So that by the time they reached their 50s, they owned 2 homes free and clear. One was a rental property, one they lived in. Great strategy.
Now, since the stock market crash of spring of 2000, I mean, many of us are still pretty puck shy about getting into into the hockey about getting into the equity markets. But against that, you look and you say, you know, the real, you know, stable investments, GICs and what have you, are 3%.
I know.
I mean, the kind of returns that you're talking about really accumulating significant wealth, you know, are closer to 10.
Yeah.
What do you do with your extra investment cash flow that doesn't put your fundamental savings at risk?
Really good question. Let me just explain something, because this is what really ruins people's lives financially. They go back and forth. It's like have you ever been like in the grocery store and you have your cart and you're in the aisle and your aisle just stops and you look over there and you go, that aisle's moving. So you move to the other aisle and then you get in the other aisle and that aisle stops and the aisle that you were in just goes speeding right through. It happens in the cars too. I call that lane switching. People do that with investments. They go from all their money in GICs to the stock market's taking off like it just did last year, and they put all their money in the stock market. Then the moment they get in the stock market crashes. They go, I knew that was a mistake. They go back to GICs. They're always going backwards and back and forth. Here's what you do. You build a boring financial life. And let me tell you how you build a boring financial life that works. You put about 30% of your money into GICs, guaranteed investments. Then you put another 30% of your money into real estate, like your home or a rental property. And that leaves you with another 40%. And you put that money into the stock market. And you buy an index fund. And you put some of that in the Canadian stock market because you have to. And you put the rest that you're allowed to into the global index fund. So that guess what? You got total diversification on the stock market. You got real estate in your portfolio. And you got guaranteed investments. Over time, that breakdown, 30, 30, and 40, produces roughly somewhere between 8 to 11% a year.
But there's different strategies depending on where you are in life and your age, is there not?
There is. And as people get older, you always hear you need to be more conservative. But a lot of people who are older haven't saved a lot of money. And so people who are in their 50s, guess what? You are not at the end of your life now. You're really in the middle. Because a lot of people 50 today are going to live to be 100. They really are. You know, my grandmother lived to be 86. And right before she had a stroke and passed away, she was an 86-year-old active young woman, you know, hiking 5 miles a day, going out on 3 dates, 3 nights a week with 3 different men. You know, my grandfather passed away in his early 70s. My grandmother lived almost 20 years later than him. She moved to Leisure World, California, where there's 29,000 women and like 400 men, which is a little bit of an exaggeration, but not a huge exaggeration. And she had the money to enjoy her retirement. She was buying growth stocks at 86 years old. Now, she had guaranteed investments also.
Right.
But she was still looking for investment opportunities at 86.
We're finally seeing a return to mutual funds. You know, the market is still a little dodgy, but there's money going into. Are you a big fan of managed money, of investing in mutual funds?
I'm a big fan of having your money be boring. So here's what's really boring. Index funds.
Right.
You know, buying an index fund.
These are the ones that track the stock market.
Yeah, the ones that track the stock market, they're totally diversified and they're going to match the market. And here's the truth. And people hate to hear this because I was a money manager. The reality is it's very hard to outperform the stock market. Very rarely are you able to do it. So I see nothing wrong with matching the stock market. And if I'm going to try and buy an actively managed mutual fund that, you know, will potentially outperform the stock market, then I want a fund that's been around for over 20 years. That's got a track record that can prove to me that they've got the ability to outperform the stock market. But quite frankly, matching the stock market should be just fine. And I'll tell you what, after situations like Nortel, or you know, in the United States we had Enron or WorldCom, after these great companies wiped out so many people's financial nest eggs, I'll never bet personally money on individual stocks in a big way ever again. I don't think you should have more than 5% of your net worth in one company stock.
Diversification is important as part of that strategy. Now, another book, you offer financial advice specifically to women.
Yes.
What kind of advice do women need, or do you offer that's different than you would?
Well, Smart Women Finish Rich was the first book I ever wrote. I wrote that book because I learned about money from my grandmother. My grandmother started at 30 with absolutely nothing, became a self-made millionaire, taught my family how to invest, helped me buy my first stock at age 7. I thought all women were like Grandma Bach, you know, the one managing the money at home. What I found out, though, is that women often don't manage the money. And here's what I can tell you as a woman. The financial plan for your family is more important for you than your husband. Because realistically, if your family runs out of money, you'll be the one to find out. Your husband won't, because your husband won't live as long as you will. Women are living an average of 7 to 10 years longer than men, but the truth is that women marry older men in many cases.
Sure.
So your retirement as a woman could be 10, 20, 30 years longer than your counterpart, and yet because you take time off from work to have kids, you end up with less money in retirement accounts. So it's a double whammy. For women, you got to save more money than men.
What do you think is the biggest single mistake women make financially?
If they're single, putting off buying a home. You meet women, because today women are getting married later. So women in their 20s should be looking to buy a home. But I'll meet women in their 20s and even their early 30s who are not married, and they say, yeah, but I'm going to wait until I get married. I'm going to wait to deal with this until I'm married. Well, guess what? First of all, you might not get married. Second of all, you'll never meet a man that says that. Men don't say, oh, I'm not going to buy a home until I get married. And the reason men have more money than women is not that they're earning more. It's that they start investing sooner. So as a woman, I will tell you, don't put off investing. Use your RSP immediately and buy a home immediately. Those are the two smartest things you can do.
The other kind of lifestyle change that has financial implications is that it seems that our children are dependent on us much, much later, well into adulthood. They're going to university more, and that this creates, again, a financial, if not obligation, certainly burden on us parents. How do you pay yourself first when you seem to be stuck in a rut of paying your kids first?
They call it, it's the boomerang generation. You throw these kids out in the world, you pay for them to go off to school, to university, and then they come back. So I tell parents, look, you have to have an honest conversation with your kids. You have to say, Mom and Dad can no longer give you money. And here's why. We don't want to live with you for the rest of your life. See, at some point, if we don't have money put aside, you'll have to be the one who has a job, and we'll be staying at your house. So Mom and Dad want to have enough money to have our own retirement, and we don't want to be a financial burden to you, which, believe me, you don't want us to be a financial burden to you. So it's now time for you to go off and get a job and pay for your home and pay for your food. This is what Mommy and Daddy did, and now it's your turn.
Now, you start the book with the inspirational story of the McIntyres, who have been able to accumulate this significant wealth without huge cash flow. But what about the opposite side, especially people who are right on the brink of retirement, and they look and they just say, and I think you make the point, only about one in five people have enough savings to retire and maintain the lifestyle they had while they were working. What advice do you give to someone at that station in life? Okay,
first of all, again, the retirement advice that's been given for the last 10 years is just really poor. You keep hearing over and over again that when you retire, you're going to need 70 to 80% of what you make. So if you're making, let's just use $100,000 as an example a year, you'll only need $70,000 a year in income at retirement. Well, first of all, it's ridiculous. It's not true. When people retire, you know what the first thing they want to do? What would you guess the first thing somebody wants to do when they retire?
Go on a cruise or have a winter home in Canada.
They want to travel, or they want to buy a second home. There's all these things they want to do. They've been working for 2 or 3 or 4 decades. They're ready to go party. They may be in their 60s, but they're ready to go play. You'll spend more money in this first, second, or third year of retirement. In some cases, 100, 150, 200%. So here's what you need to know. If you really think you're going to live off of less retirement, don't guesstimate it, practice it. We had our clients where I used to work, I had my own investment group at Morgan Stanley. We used to have our clients practice retirement for 6 months. So instead of just doing a retirement projection that said, okay, here's your amount of money and it'll produce $50,000 a year in income, we'd say, if you're telling us that you can live off of $50,000 a year in income, then we want you to practice doing that for 6 months. At the end of 6 months, come back into our office and tell us if it worked. Then you know you're ready to retire. The clients that listened to us and practiced doing that had a really enjoyable retirement because they knew that they could do it, they didn't have to worry. The ones that didn't practice it are the ones that got into big surprises. Believe it or not, we've seen people save $500,000 for retirement and go through all of it in 10 years. And now you're 70. So you retired at 60 and you're 70 and you went through $500,000 and now what do you do?
When you could live to 90. Well, you're the financial advisor. Give me an answer to that question.
Well, we just did a makeover for a couple. I have a show in the States called Simplify Your Life that I do, where we do makeovers. And we did a makeover for a wonderful couple, 70 and 71, live in a beautiful home, have all the nice clothes, had a nice lifestyle, had a $500,000 retirement nest egg, and went through it in 11 years. They're down to $50,000. And you know what they're having to do? sell their home. And we had to show, they're going to have some money when they sell this home, fortunately, because this home's gone up in value a lot.
Right.
But they're having to sell their home and move to a much, much smaller place in a neighborhood that's not where their friends are. And it's going to be a tough adjustment for them. And the look in their eyes as we went around with these camera crews doing reality TV, showing them what they're going to have to go live in, was brutal.
What should have they done?
Well, they really should have practiced retirement, and they made the fatal mistake that retirees make. They lived off of 10% of their nest egg a year. So they had $500,000. Well, when the market was going up at 20% clicks, they would say, oh, geez, $500,000 made $100,000 this year. So they would spend $100,000. Well, then the market went down, and they kept spending at that rate. And that's how you can go through a nest egg in 5 to 10 years.
Finally, you say that even if you aren't a millionaire, you could feel like one by a simple process of tithing, allocating, again, a small portion of your free cash flow to charity.
Yes.
Given how much difficulty everyone has in just savings, I mean, what purpose could this particularly solve?
First of all, the Automatic Millionaire book ends with the chapter on tithing. And it ends on the chapter on tithing because, honestly, this book is not about just being a millionaire. The truth is that what money does is it buys you your freedom. It buys you your freedom to spend your energy on what matters most to you, which is hopefully your family, your friends. It's also your community. And I honestly believe with all my heart that it's not just about making yourself rich, it's about taking part of what you make and giving it back to help others. Now, I don't tell you in this book, oh, you should tithe, you should give back to your community or your church 10% of your income, which so many people do. I just suggest that something that comes to you should go back. And if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you start just giving a little bit away, first pay yourself first, then give a little bit away, what you'll see is that it comes back to you tenfold. I really believe that. You make the world a better place and good things happen.